We've made it past Thanksgiving. There's only 1 month left in 2022. Wow. So today I'm going to stop and rank all 10 November new releases that I saw from the worst to the best. Hi, my name is Sean, and I started this channel because I was driving everyone around me crazy talking about movies way too much. If you can relate, you're probably in the right place, and consider clicking that subscribe button. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comments section. Share your ranking of all the November new releases that you saw. And if there's something new that came out you think that I would like, let me know about it down below in the comment section, and let's get started. In last place, Strange World from Disney. When they decided not to really market this movie, that was probably a sign it wasn't going to be very good. And it's disappointing because there's so much actual potential here. They decided to tell a good old-fashioned adventure story in the style of old serials from the 1940s and 50s. So it just has a nice aesthetic in that regard. There's some world building both in the village at the start of the film as well as when they kind of go off on this adventure into this strange world. There's just a bunch of fun ideas and how it's visualized and what goes down. But beyond that, the movie just doesn't really work. From the get-go, the characters are just incredibly unlikable, and they try and prop up this one guy's this heroic adventurer, when in actuality he's an abusive father that abandoned his son, and then they try and equate the modern day son grown up with the abusive dad that took him on dangerous missions and abandoned him. They try to equate the two, and there's nothing actually there. There's only the thinnest of connections that's totally undeserved to draw the comparison that they do. And it's just rehashing themes that 1,000 movies have tackled before. And once you move into the third act and it kind of reveals what's going on, feels like it undermined the entire adventure that we've been on up to this point in time for the purpose of communicating a brand new message and having all new themes, where it goes full blown preaching at the audience by the time you're in the final 2 minutes of the movie. And so a film that had potential, and between the characters, the sloppy themes, and way in your face messaging of the end, didn't come together for me. Number 9, Spirited. And while this movie's next to last on this list, it's fine. It's good enough while just making some very odd choices that did not sit all that well with me. This is a movie I'm almost positive my wife will be watching on loop all month long. This is very much her sort of thing, so I'll be watching it a lot this month with her. But our two leads here are a lot of fun, as you'd imagine, getting two comedic legends to banter back and forth.
Oh, he's dead.
Yeah, he's definitely... No, he's fine.
There's a lot of fun to be had with that, as it is a musical. It's lively, it's upbeat, it kind of takes classic source material, puts a modern spin on it, and so it's able to kind of at times be heartwarming and tragic at other times, and has some ideas in there that work pretty nicely. It's just too much. It's 2 hours and 10 minutes long. It gives full arcs as well as kind of competing messages and journeys for our two lead characters, and it's almost like two different versions of A Christmas Carol kind of going on at the exact same time, plus musical numbers. I mean, it is a movie that is just overpacked with too much stuff in there, and it feels like if they'd made the hour and 45-minute version, it bumps up this list 2-3 spots. The other thing here that I was not crazy about is there's one plot point in here that I would say gets very emotionally manipulative, where... Hey, Karis. Oh, thank you. You want me to eat these? Mm-hmm. Thumb globe. Because the battery died.
I don't.
You have to charge it. I wasn't really looking to eat chips at the moment. Tweak people's emotions, I thought was just in poor taste. Yeah. I thought it was just incredibly poor taste. And then in the end, where it leaves Ryan Reynolds' character, I didn't find satisfying. I get that they wanted to do something different, subvert expectations, and not just repeat the same ending we've seen 1,000 times. Just because it's different doesn't mean that it's good or that it feels earned, or that adds anything new that's interesting to it. It just felt like, oh, okay, that's what we're doing with this. So a movie that was very close to being a movie that I enjoyed quite a bit more, and then it just made certain choices that knocked it way back for me. Number 8, Devotion. And I did enjoy this movie. I did review it on my second channel, and I gave it a positive review. But I don't think it's as good as you'd hope for it to be. It's the story of the two most celebrated wingmen in the Korean War. There's some specific details about their friendship, about their ultimate fate in the Korean War that are very interesting details. But that doesn't mean that their story fits nicely into the structure of a blockbuster or into the structure of a film at all, in which case it's trying to faithfully and accurately tell their story, have certain details in there, and so it doesn't know what to focus in on. And you as the audience member are like, okay, that's what this is about. No, that's not what it's about. Okay, we're building towards this. No, that's not what it's building towards, because life isn't designed to set up payoffs. Life doesn't always have the moments that you want it to have. And if you're going to accurately and truthfully tell this story, you can't just make up things. In which case, at times, it has to emphasize things that were true that don't set up the third act all that well. And the third act for me kind of felt like it came out of nowhere. I was like, oh, okay, that's where we're going with this? Okay. But it's what's in the third act is what really happened. So for me, it was a movie that there's a lot of things that I really enjoyed. The two lead actors here, great. The aviation sequences, very well done. The story in there, the true stuff, is fascinating and inspiring in many different ways. They just didn't find the right way to package it as a film for it to be as great as the story that inspired it. Next up, Enola Holmes 2. I enjoyed the first film and I was looking forward to the sequel. And I had a good enough time with it while I was watching it. One of the nice touches here is that Henry Cavill as Sherlock Holmes has a elevated role in the film, more prominent presence.
Might your brother be free?
My brother.
So that's a nice little touch. Obviously, getting to see more Henry Cavill, always a win. It delivered the mystery that I wanted with just enough kind of spice to keep things interesting. But I watched the movie less than a month ago, and I kind of barely remember what happened. Like, even as I'm like sitting down to discuss it, I mean, I did a review and everything, but there wasn't a whole lot about the film that just stood out to me. It was like a good enough watch while you're sitting there, and then it kind of moves on from your mind. It's one of those movies for me of like, yeah, that was a fine way to spend 2 hours while not leaving much of a mark either. Number 6, Bones and All. And this is a movie I actually saw a couple months back at Fantastic Fest. And I went into it knowing absolutely nothing. I had not seen a trailer. I'd seen, I guess, the poster for it, but I did not know what the premise was, the genre, anything. So got about 10 minutes into the movie, and there was quite a little bit of a turn that happens with a couple of girls that are very close to each other. And I was not expecting things to head in that direction. And it's a movie that when you go in with absolutely no expectations, it's an interesting experience with a film like this, because it's kind of this coming of age story. It's kind of a romance. It's a story about learning to accept who you are. It's a story about fighting your addictions. It's about all these kind of different things while kind of being a beautiful story in a certain sense. A lot of really solid performances and kind of interesting experience. I don't know that it's specifically my thing or one that just like, wow, that was incredible. But it's a movie that I'm glad that I was able to experience at the film festival. It's not one that I would probably naturally gravitate towards or go check out in the theater, independent from being at a film festival. So that's actually why I like to go to things like that, to see movies I wouldn't normally watch. Number 5, A Christmas Story Christmas. Now, I did grow up watching A Christmas Story. I still watch it every December. And in fact, just last night, we got a leg lamp and installed it in one of our windows in our house. And so when I first heard that they were doing this movie, which was only about a month ago, I wasn't aware that this movie was in production until they put out this first little teaser about a month ago. I had like a nice nostalgic interest. I was kind of nervous because it's very weird when there's no buzz and the trailer comes out so late in the game. But at the same time, when you got the original actor, a lot of the original actors returning to do kind of this generational version of A Christmas Story, there was enough nostalgia there to pique my interest. So finally, a couple of days ago, I was able to check it out, and I thought it was really sweet and funny. It lacks the big iconic moments of the original one. I don't think there's anything like "You'll Shoot Your Eye Out," "Oh Fudge," "Fragile." Like, I don't think there's anything nearly as memorable in this film that people are going to be quoting. They just didn't capture those moments the way the original one just had all of these iconic sequences. I triple dog dare you.
Schwartz, I triple dog dare you. Oh, I got it now.
This doesn't have anything to replace that, but that's not to say that it's not a solid, entertaining, and worthwhile follow-up to the original. If you don't know this, they've actually done a bunch of sequels to A Christmas Story. I don't know how, maybe it's not a bunch, but there's like one in the 90s that I think was set during summertime, and there's A Christmas Story 2, and they had different casts, but the guy that wrote the stories that turned into A Christmas Story, he wrote a lot of stories, and they just converted those into these other versions. Whereas this one is very much just designed to be a sequel to the original film by bringing back our original Ralphie. And I think because of that, it's not trying to capture the magic in that same sense where some of these other ones try to do a cheapy knockoff, or not knockoff, but cheapy continuation. This one is like, let's go back to the original and let's have Ralphie now become the dad. And whereas the original one told this story about Christmas from a child's perspective, this one tells the story of a Christmas from the parent's perspective. And as someone that has grown up with Peter Billingsley, that I too am now a parent that has kids and is on the side of things of trying to figure out how to do Christmases, you have a very different perspective when you're the one trying to get it done. And there's all this kind of stuff in the movie about Ralphie, like talking about how great his dad was and he was perfect at all of this. And us as the audience are like, we've seen the original movie's dad did not have everything together. And that's so true of the way we can have this nostalgia for our childhood and the simplistic understanding, and trips that were disasters are really fun, great memories for us as children, whereas the parent remember everything that goes wrong. And so I thought it touched on a lot of things really nicely. The humor worked, being like just these subtle little bits. It was, my wife and I just sitting there watching it, and there was like a bunch of times where we just had like actual little laugh out loud. Like, that's pretty clever. By the time you get to the end, it's like heartwarming and emotional. So I think it worked for what it was going for. And I don't think it's like the new Christmas classic, but like it's a good follow-up to the original Christmas Story. Number 4, The Menu. This is another one that I watched a couple months back at Fantastic Fest, and that was a really cool context to watch a movie like this. A bunch of people that are there in a great mood. They're at a film festival and they're watching a film like this early. It was the right way to do it. And this won't mean a whole lot to you if you haven't seen the film, but during the third act, if you don't, it was at an Alamo Drafthouse. If you don't know, they have like a full service restaurant at Alamo Drafthouse where they deliver food to your seat. And in the third act of this movie, while we're sitting there, they walked up to all of us and delivered every single person in the theater a little s'more. So if you've seen the movie, you get the reference. We were watching the movie, so we didn't know what was happening as they just gave us something. We were a little like, what's this? And we're like, s'more? Okay. And then shortly afterwards, the movie plays out and we're like, oh, I see what you did there. But anyway, just a really witty, smart comedy that's designed to be a takedown of elitist, rich, foodie culture, and all while being entertaining and clever along the way. It's another movie I went into not knowing much about what it was. I think I'd seen like one trailer for it. It's like, okay, I don't know what that is. I went with my buddy Cody Leach. He'd seen nothing. he thought it was just a foodie movie and didn't know that there were going to be any big twist turns and have a dark streak inside of it. So he's like, whoa, just happened, which is, once again, the things that make for great film experiences. That's one that makes that happen. But so a movie I thoroughly enjoyed. One of my favorite, maybe not my favorite, of Fantastic Fest, but just a movie that put a smile on my face and just felt fresh, new, and different. Real quick, before I give you my top 3, remember to join me down below in the comment section. Share your ranking of the November new releases that you saw. And if I missed something that you think I would like I know I didn't see Disenchanted. It's not in my top 3 if you're thinking that's like at the top for me. I wasn't able to watch it. As much as I was very excited for it, I even said I was going to do a review for it. I just haven't been able to see it yet because it's one that I wanted to watch with my wife, and I was out of town a couple times. She was out of town a couple of times. She's out of town right now. That's why the baby walked in, because I can only be away from her for a few minutes while I'm filming this video. But I haven't seen it yet. So, but if there's some other ones I missed, let me know about them down below in the comment section. Also, I have done full reviews for a bunch of these movies on this channel or on my other channel, or I talked about them in more detail in my Fantastic Fest video, where like Bones and All in the Menu. It's been a couple months since I watched them, so my fresher take on them is in that video, which I did right after Fantastic Fest. In third place is Weird, the Weird Al Yankovic story. Like all normal weird people, I grew up listening to Weird Al Yankovic, and about 10, 12 years ago, they put out this Funny or Die short that was Aaron Paul as Weird Al, and the trailer plays like it's a serious drama about Weird Al's life.
I'm the weird one!
Where he has addiction problems and he hooks up with Madonna and it was bad for him. And I thought it was just, I thought it was absolutely one of the best Funny or Die skits that they ever did. I loved it.
2 words. Eat it.
And jump forward 10 years, and they got the idea, like, what if we made that into a movie? What if we just did that? By the time I'd seen the trailers for Weird, but I didn't realize that's what this movie was. Maybe I saw the wrong trailers. I wasn't reading enough on the background. I just, a comedy version of Weird Al's story. That'll be a lot of fun. And as I was watching it, I realized, like, this is that trailer done as a feature-length film, and it was delightful. It was perfectly weird. It was a parody of the dramatic biopic for musician biopics. I mean, it was just everything that I wanted to be. It was as over-the-top insane as you would hope. It was a movie that's very much designed for Weird Al fans to be able to pick up on all of the things that are almost true and then have this insane twist that goes off in this other direction. I just thought it was hilarious. I was just absolutely loved it. I don't know if what comedies have come out this year, but I would assume this is like way up there for top comedies of 2022. And the other fun thing about it, I did watch it with my 8-year-old daughter, and ever since then she's shown a lot more interest in Weird Al, so that's a big gigantic win. So been playing her the songs and trying to get her into it, and my son's more into the Weird Al Star Wars songs naturally, but one of the big benefits of the film, the kids are getting into Weird Al now. Our runner-up, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. And if ever there was a movie just dealt a terrible hand, this would be one of them, where the lead actor of their franchise died and all of this went down in the middle of a pandemic. I mean, it was just, they were dealt just a horrible hand, and they did the best job they could with it and delivered a film that, for me, I felt was a natural continuation of where the first film left off, while also being a fitting, satisfying, emotional tribute to the legacy of the lead actor, and surprisingly cohesive. To me, the movie did not feel like they were trying to slap together a movie and plot points. It made sense with what they did. Maybe it's too long, a little bit overstuffed, that perhaps if they could have done a version that was 15, 20 minutes shorter, that would have been the better version of the film. It slows down a little bit in the middle. It certainly does. But overall, I felt like they found a way to make a movie that has a much more serious tone than most of the Phase 4 projects, certainly the ones we've gotten recently. but it still has humor. It still has entertainment value. It still has people and robots and superheroes and big over-the-top action sequences, but not so over-the-top that they violate the rules of the movie that you're watching. Delivered everything that I wanted while following up the first film and being that proper send-off for Chadwick Boseman. But coming in at number 1 is The Fabelmans, the latest Steven Spielberg film that is semi-autobiographical. He wrote the script, of course he directed it, and he's trying to tell essentially the story of how he fell in love with films and the trauma he faced in his family at that time without being strictly literal or an actual story about his childhood, but so many elements in here are pulled straight from his life. And I felt like it just did a great job of balancing being a celebration of cinema and the power of cinema with a very relatable story about a family falling apart. And it just merges those two stories together, where film is kind of the coping mechanism and art is this way in which they communicate and show love to one another. But for me, it wasn't pretentious in the way, like when you say that, it sounds like, oh, yikes, where is this going? But it's told in a very accessible manner. There's humor sprinkled all throughout the entire film. It plays out. Maybe it helps because we know we're seeing this fictionalized version of Steven Spielberg, to where this is a person that as you're watching this movie, you know he's going to go off to make movies that moved me, helped me through hard times, gave me the escapism that I needed, told stories about incredibly important traumatic events throughout history. And you're watching this child learn to tell stories through film. And processing life through film. And I just thought it balanced all of these things so well. It was funny, it was heartfelt, it was sad, things were unexpected. And so for me, I just thought it was great, and it absolutely accomplished what it was going for. So it comes in at number 1. Remember, I have done full reviews for a bunch of these videos. You can check that out over there in that playlist. You can check out my Fantastic Fest video right down there. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies and TV too much. Bye-bye.